Hey guys, excited to announce we're launching AWS native Lambda deployments in beta, and it's going to be behind feature flag. We have some beta docs kind of available for you guys to get started with while we're getting the formal docs kind of launched. And so, if you look at kind of what this offering will be like, think about it as like the equivalent to our Lambda swim lane in current gen, except we've leveled it up. So there were some, capabilities in current gen that were not available with native Lambda, like Lambda layers support or Docker Lambdas. So what we've done is with this native Lambda swim lane, we still do like the AWS kind of Lambda, APIs to go do this deployment. But we now have some further kind of capabilities like layers and containerized Lambdas that users can deploy. And those were some gaps from our current gen that we've addressed in the next gen here. On what's next on this roadmap is doing some more of those more challenging or more advanced kind of use cases like the canary and the blue greens with Lambda and being able to do some traffic shifting via the aliases. That's something that's in the works at this time. However, this swim lane is ready for beta. We are opening it up to any kind of SE, SA, CSM, any customer that's interested in participating in a beta. We would love to get your feedback. We'd love to kind of get you guys going on this and start getting some adoption on it. I do want to call out this was flagged as an upgrade kind of blocker for some customers. And in the channel, I have listed the customers that have flagged it as an upgrade blocker. So I highly recommend our CS team and our SE team proactively reach out to our upgrade team led by Umesh, and we can start strategizing how to upgrade these customers with the swim lane. So I'll dive into more of the fun stuff, like how to configure it. And I'll start by creating a fresh service so you guys get the full experience. So I'm gonna do a hello Rohan kind of Lambda, right? And so what you'll notice is we'll have a new deployment type called AWS Lambda, and you can specify a manifest, which is like basically a function definition, and you can pick between like AWS Lambda function definition. And this is not available yet. This is something we're working on, but the AWS Lambda function definition, we can fetch it from Git, GitHub, GitLab, and you'll be able to kind of think about this function definition as like a param file. It's written in JSON, and we can fetch it from Git, and these parameters are all like these supported parameters that are available in AWS. So if you go into our doc here, you'll notice that we have some sample kind of function definitions. Like this is one that will deploy like a Node.js. You just have to specify the runtime, the function name, the handler, and then the role that you're going to use to deploy. We support service variables in this function definition. So you'll see like you can put like your service variable for runtime, handler, role ARN. This makes that function definition param file very generic. And then you can also deploy to an existing one. So if you tell Harness, hey, I already have like an existing function, here's the ARN for it, and then here's the name of the function, we'll just go ahead and update the existing function for you with the new artifact. Some of the key things you might be asking is like, why do we have a function definition? Well, one piece of feedback we got from our current gen is people want to manage these functions as like a configuration that they can deploy. And you see that in the rise of frameworks like AWS SAM and serverless.com, which kind of mask the cloud formation and let you define these parameters to go orchestrate Lambda deployments. Instead of going down the cloud formation route, we are engaging directly with the AWS Lambda create functions API, which gives us a list of parameters that we can define. And you'll see here that we have a bunch, this post request, you can imagine this whole JSON we can support. So you can define whatever you want, the function name, the handler, the image config, the layers can be a list. the role, the runtime. You can have tags, you can map it to a VPC. We have all these kind of capabilities available to you to kind of define in that JSON, and we'll go ahead and apply it in Harness. The other key piece, what you'll notice, is the artifacts. So once you've configured your manifest, you'll configure your artifacts, and we support S3 and ECR. And the reason these two are like the de facto ones that AWS Lambda supports and AWS supports out of the box. So the Dockerized Lambdas have to sit in ECR. Amazon just can't say, oh, Harness Delegate will download the Docker image and somehow go ahead and apply it to Lambda. That's not how the API works. It has to reside in ECR for us to deploy it. With S3, it's a little bit more flexible because S3, we can fetch the zip, download it on the delegate, and go perform the deployment. And you can actually extend this concept to like an Artifactory or like a Nexus, where we can actually fetch it, pull it down the delegate, and deploy. But even though we're pulling the zip file onto the delegate to deploy, our Amazon is still spinning up an S3 bucket to actually dump that zip so that it's stored there as well when we go do a deployment. So that's that. There's some slight nuances to how the artifacts are fetched. So it's not like we can support all these artifact sources like we do for Kubernetes. It's very, we can support the traditional ones, but if you're going to Docker, it's only ECR. There's no way around that. Now, once you've configured your service, right, you will go configure your environment. And the environment hasn't changed too much. And I'll just show you an existing one. So if you go into your configurations, you'll be able to configure the environment. No change really here. Where the change will happen is the infrastructure definition. So you'll see a new type of infrastructure definition called AWS Lambda, which gives you the option of AWS. And then you'll just provide us a connector and a region. So this connector, what it'll act as is it's going to have the role and the access credential for Harness to go communicate to the target infrastructure and go deploy this Lambda in a given region. In this case, it's US East. But you can imagine a user making this a runtime and deploying it into a different region. So we have different kind of capabilities and offerings to kind of let you deploy these functions to different regions. And you can get very creative with these things, right? Like we could have one infrastructure definition deploy Lambda to multiple regions, or we can define multiple infrastructure definitions and do multi-region Lambda deployments. So you can see kind of how this construct kind of plays into the broader scheme of things. Lastly, in the pipeline, right? If you look at our pipeline, what we'll offer in the steps is we offer out-of-the-box rollback step and a deploy step. So in the deploy step, it's minimal configuration. We didn't want to add any more kind of configuration, give the user many more kind of options, because a lot of their options that they want to pass in are defined in that function definition YAML actually. And so when we're just deploying, you can think of us as deploying the param file with the deploy step, and whatever is defined in your param file, that's what Harness will go deploy with. So the user gets all those definitions as configuration as a code YAML file, and Harness is just taking it to deploy. Similar to our Kubernetes swim lane, similar to our ECS swim lane. This has been like a proven kind of pattern, so we doubled down on it. And so when we do a deploy, it'll be like a basic deploy. The Lambda function will be deployed and will automatically route the traffic from the existing Lambda to the newly deployed Lambda. And to show you a sample execution history, what you'll see is, and I'll blow up the logs here. So we'll fetch the files. So we can fetch the JSON from GitHub. Then what we'll do is we'll prepare the rollback. So we'll know what the current state is. So we know that there's function version 9. Here's the role for the function. Here's the code SHA. Here's the memory size, the runtime, the handler, and the architecture used. So we have that all saved in our rollback data step. So we're actually like managing and storing the state before we go do the deployment. So think about it as a snapshot before the deploy. And then after, when we go do the deployment, we'll actually check if it exists, and then if it already exists, we'll just update and publish. If it doesn't exist, we create new. And so what we'll do is we'll update the existing code, we'll update the code SHA, we'll update the ARN, we'll validate if the function is successful. We'll wait till it gets to steady state. So when we update, we'll query AWS to see if it's in progress, if it's been created. Once it's created, we'll get this message of successfully deployed test Lambda 10, as you see here, and we'll publish the ARN. So some other key things that you'll see is we publish some output variables. So for the deploy step, you get the function name, the runtime, the function ARN. You'll also get the version of the function name, region, runtime, and infrastructure key. So you get some metadata out of the Lambda function as well when we deploy it. And this is what we have for the initial cut. We plan on adding Canary and Blue Green in the future, and we're really excited to get those going as well. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, myself or Rohit, or in the channel in CD Next Gen. We'll be happy to help. Thank you for your time.